Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Surprise, surprise. Jarrell Miller, he's looking to face yet another beaten title contender. This time lining up the 20-3 Artur Szpilka to fight in October on the DAZN streaming service. So if this fight is made, which is sounding likely from what Miller is saying, and more on that soon, it will be the fourth defeated title challenger he's faced in a row, following Miller's fights with Gerald Washington a year ago, followed by Mariusz Wach, and most recently, Johann Dorper at the end of April. So Washington, Dorper and Szpilka, they all fought WBC champion Deontay Wilder. The key difference being, though, this is what I think, those three went into those respective fights with Wilder with some form, whereas Miller has plucked them either coming off a loss or when they've clearly been on the downside of their careers, I think Dorper and Wach. And it's important to note with Szpilka, whose best win is over an aged Thomas Ademic, and has losses to Wilder, Bryant Jennings and Adam Kanelski, Szpilka is not currently ranked in the top 15 by any of the sanctioning bodies. None of them. He's lost 2 of his last 3 fights, and he's currently ranked 32nd best heavyweight in the world. So I add all this context to make the point. Jarrell Miller is again being carefully matched with a heavyweight that's got some name recognition, but is actually removed from their best form. Miller and his people, they are blatantly looking to advance their title aspirations by taking fights that have the veneer of credibility, but in reality they are heavily in Miller's favour, and this is another sort of 80-20 fight. Sure, there's nothing new in what's happening in terms of, boxing. This sort of stuff happens all the time. But where I get annoyed with the whole thing is Miller is constantly fronting that he's one of the best heavyweights in the world. He tells us this all the time. He's top 3 according to him, and that no one will fight him. But the actual reality is much different. He's turning down call-outs from fellow contenders, and think Andy Ruiz from just the other week, and he's even turning down ordered fights, the IBF eliminator with Kubrat Pulev being one example. His promoter Dmitry Salita, he's even been telling the media that Miller has stepped up and fought the best opposition there is. Just let that sink in. Fought the best opposition there is. Stepped up. Are Gerald Washington, Mariusz Wach and Johann Dorper the best heavyweights around? Do they represent the best guys that he could have fought? No. They're all good heavyweights, but they were all roughly top 30 guys when Miller fought them. And we've actually been waiting on Miller to take things to that next level, because he does have a lot of talent, but it's really hard to know how good he is if he keeps being force-fed this bunch of former title contenders who've largely seen better days. And actually, given he'd just fought Wach and then Dorper, I was joking with someone the other day that his current preference is faded Euro title challenges, and Artur Szpilka was next on the list. And now he is. So truth can sometimes be stranger than fiction, I tell you. And I get why Miller is playing it safe. He's well positioned in a couple of the sanctioning bodies, and he's waiting to be a mandatory challenger in one of the sanctioning bodies. And the most likely chance that he does have now is the WBA. So he's rated 3rd at the moment. But with Alexander Povetkin to soon vacate that top spot, and second placed Freza Quindo, he will be gone after his fight with regular champion Manuel Cha in September. So if Miller waits, he will keep climbing by default. And that opens the possibility, if he keeps climbing up, to face Manuel Cha. He's just got to hold his position, and he's got to get a shot at some point. And Miller himself, when he rebuffed Andy Ruiz Jr., he said he was waiting on his mandatory shot. And that shot can only come in the WBA or WBO, because he's not ranked in the WBC, and he is going to be dropped from the IBF for turning down the Pulev fight after he took it to a purse bid. And I might add, a purse bid in which his team didn't bid, but then tried to be the A side and dictate where the fight was going to be held. Hold it somewhere to their liking. And obviously Pulev's team was, Epic Sports and Entertainment, who won the bid, said no thanks, we're holding this thing in Bulgaria. But a part of the Pulev situation as well, and I have to acknowledge this, was the money side. So it was a 75-25 split, and Miller's cut of the action was going to be $527,000, and that would have easily been a career-high payday. But Miller said, no, I'm not going to fight in Bulgaria, and by the way, they need to come up with some more bread. That's how he put it. And I guess we know now why he said that. He is signed to a DAZN deal, and we don't know what he's on or what he's going to be getting. But it's, his potential purses are likely to be decent, to be quite healthy. He's likely to be getting paid a decent wedge to beat someone like an Artur Szpilka, beat him into the dirt. And, the risk in terms of a Szpilka fight as opposed to the prospect of risking it all in Bulgaria against Pulev, you can kind of see which one is likely to be the more attractive option. So playing it safe, it will get Jarrell Miller paid, at least paid well in the short term. But the thing is, and this is why I get so annoyed with him, he keeps telling us how great he is, but then he's not taking those fights past a certain level. And he can't keep telling us how great he is and that he's a top 3 heavyweight and not take that next step, not prove it to us. I mean, otherwise he just looks like he's trying to coast to a title shot, to a payday, taking fights at a low risk and sometimes low reward, but the reward is he moves on, gets him closer to that title shot. And that is a reasonably well-worn path in the division. But generally, most contenders will run into a fight at some point before a title shot where it is actually a reasonably close fight. It's expected to be okay, that could be a 50-50 or a 60-40. Miller kind of hasn't been in those fights. But he keeps telling us how great he is. But he won't take on someone that is really a 50-50 fight. But in terms of Szpilka, the Szpilka fight, Miller has told BoxingScene.com, I'm definitely going to knock his ass out. I need a good knockout right now. I need to continue to be dominant and keep moving forward. That's it. And in relation to Szpilka getting knocked out by his friend Adam Kanelski, Miller was quoted as saying, every fight is dangerous. I know for a fact that he wasn't training and he was sleeping on Adam Kanelski because he thought he was a chubby guy. A lot of people sleep on Adam because he's not the fittest looking dude. He gives me a run for my money every training camp. Since we were 15 years old, we've been banging. I lost more brain cells sparring at him than in all my fights combined, with all the rounds I've done with him. People sleep on Adam, but I say, you better watch out. Adam will bust your ass. Okay, so there's a couple of things we can take away from all that. Miller appears to be saying that he will be getting a better version of Artur Szpilka because Szpilka took Adam Kanelski too lightly and was sleeping on him. And that, by default, Szpilka will train harder for a Jarrell Miller fight because Jarrell Miller is a known quantity. He won't be sleeping on him. Well, that's kind of what he seems to be implying here. I mean, the only thing that Miller really said to talk up the Polish fighter was that every fight is dangerous. And that's certainly true. And I could actually see Szpilka having some success in those early rounds against Miller because he's a decent technician. But ultimately, I would see Miller's pressure and just sheer volume of punches that he throws. It would likely wear down Szpilka. And, as the fight progressed in the mid to later rounds, Miller would sort of slow him down, hurt him, and then take him out. And I could actually see Miller getting a knockout in this fight. And Miller himself, he's acknowledged that he needs a good knockout, as he put it. And just for his profile and to help grow his name, getting a vicious knockout or stoppage is certainly one of the ways to go about it. And the reality is, if Eddie Hearn is to eventually set Jarrell Miller up with an Anthony Joshua title fight, a voluntary or whatever as Miller wants, Miller needs to have looked dominant in some of his recent fights. He needs to have a couple of dominant performances behind him, a few highlight reel KOs to sell to the public. Because right now, sure, Miller's winning, but he hasn't always looked spectacular. And fans, even hardcore fans, they're just kind of like, yeah, Jarrell Miller, he's good, but, no one is absolutely raving about him that he's the next best thing in the division. I mean, Miller tells us that all the time, but I'm not hearing a lot of people saying Jarrell Miller is the next heavyweight champion. He could be, we don't know, but it'd be great if he actually took a step up and proved himself, and really make us believe. And if he wants that AJ fight, he's going to need to actually do something at some point, you know, that sort of tips him over the edge and you go, yeah, he deserves that fight now. But in terms of Miller versus Szpilka, do you like it? Or, like me, do you think Miller should actually have moved up a gear by now? I mean, after all, Szpilka, he's not even ranked. I look at that and go, not even ranked, former title contender that was beaten a couple of years ago by Wilder, hasn't really done much since. In fact, he's lost the only decent contender he's faced. Really, is this the fight Miller should be in? Tell me. Drop a comment, loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.